Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Matthew Dickerson. Tech Talk. Sit back and relax. It's time to talk technology.
Greetings to all you lovers and dreamers from me. It's time to put down your banjos and paddle out of the swamp. Get those frog's legs a-peddling on your bike, and welcome to another sensational episode of Tech Talk with Matthew Dickerson. Now, in today's show, we're looking around the corner into the future, and we'll see how driverless cars are making the streets a much safer place by predicting the unpredictable. We'll see how the Royal Navy is bringing back the grand old age of sail, and we'll see what's hip and happening with the young folk lighting up the stage in music hall dance floors all around the world. I said that as much of a boomer as I possibly could. Now, if there's one bloke who knows what's hip and happening, it's got to be our guru futurist. Welcome to the microphone, Matthew Dickerson.
Well, I'm excited this week, James, incredibly excited, and it's going to sound really boring as to why I'm excited. I couldn't get any excitement out of my wife. I've talked to a couple of friends. They didn't get excited. But
I'm sensing a nerd level is increasing here, yeah?
Get ready for it. I've managed to send emojis in a text.
Oh, well done, you boomer.
Now, I know that doesn't sound exciting because it's pretty easy to do that, but...
Folks, anyone who wants to give Matt a tutorial on how to do texts in the 21st century, yeah?
It sounds like that, doesn't it? This is the problem I've been working on for 8 months. Not solidly for 8 months, but I gave up 8 months ago, and I thought I've got
just trying to get an emoji in a text.
I know it sounds simple, but
yeah,
there's more to it.
It does sound really simple.
There's more to it. Let me get there. So, obviously, sending an emoji in a text is very simple on your phone. In our business, we've got a little program that I wrote to make it easier for our staff to send a text message to a client, because getting your phone out and the little keyboard typing away there is a bit slow and tedious, and you want to have a log of messages you've sent to your client. So I wrote a little program where you just type the message in and send it off. Easy. So that's fine, except it sends the messages plain text, and that creates a problem because plain text involves the ASCII character set. So that's the uppercase, lowercase, numbers, etc. So that's all fine when my program sends it out. The provider, the company that we use to convert that email to a text to send to our clients to say we've taken care of this problem or whatever it might be, only converts the ASCII character set. Now, emojis sitting way up above in the Unicode character set, not in the ASCII character set. So it's not as easy. I know you looked at me with, what is this guy talking about, sending an emoji? Surely that's simple. So it's not been a big deal, except about 8 months ago, some of our younger, newer staff members said,
wanted to give kissy faces to their customers.
That's right. Why can't we send something to the customer? And I said, you can't. They said, well, surely you can. I went, well, but it's plain text and you can't. Anyway, I thought, right, I'll have a look at it. And I talked to the provider that is the one that we use to send these messages out. And they went, no, you can't do it. And I mucked around a little bit. I went, okay, well, if they said you can't do it, that's fine. And for whatever reason,
providers.
A few days ago, well, all of them do the same thing in terms of that plain text. A few days ago, I'm not sure what triggered me. I went, you know what? I've got nothing to do today. I'm going to try and solve this problem. Of course, you turn to AI. We've talked about Claude, for example, before doing programs. The obvious thing is, well, I can't solve this problem. I'll go to Claude. I actually tried a couple of different AI tools out there, and they all said, no, you can't do it. And I went, okay, well, if they said you can't do it, our provider said you can't do it, well, you can't do it. Stop wasting my time. But there was something in me that just went, surely there's got to be a way to go around it. Anyway, I won't bore listeners with the details, but I'm incredibly excited because last night at 9:37 and 28 seconds.
Solved the problem for everyone.
Well, I don't know that anyone else will care, but I was excited, and I haven't told my staff yet.
Well, your staff will be happy.
Well, they will be. I haven't told them yet to say you can now add kissy faces when you send a message to one of your clients. So it's one
but
of
keep
those
it professional.
Well, hopefully,
kissy faces with a professional.
Well, I'm actually going to give them a subset. I'm only going to give them certain emojis because maybe I don't want them sending any possible emoji.
No poops.
But it is definitely no poops. But it is one of those things that technology becomes incredibly complicated sometimes, and there are so many moving parts trying to work out a way to get around a problem, which again, you pull out a phone, you send an emoji, away you go. We talk about it each year when there's the next set of emojis that are going to be added to the emoji library.
Yeah, that story will be coming up later on,
folks.
Right. Not today. But,
no, not today. But it's something that we just accept, don't we? We just accept that emojis are there and that's it. When you start to look behind the scenes, and when they first designed the character set, of 128 characters. That was more than enough because that's definitely every letter of the
How
alphabet.
could you want anything more?
That's right. So it's one of those Y2K problems where the system was designed decades ago when no one thought of emojis, no one thought of text messages, and then suddenly you've got all these other issues. So it was complicated and painful, but I'm still excited. I'm just trying to find someone out there to share my excitement.
Well, you've solved a problem,
I've
right?
solved a problem that really
And that's
was
a thrill.
first world problem, I must admit. But, oh no, my life can't exist. I can't send emojis, I think was what my younger staff said. But anyway, they'll be happy about it. I'm pretty excited
So
about
how
it.
many emojis are you giving them?
Well, I'm only going to give them probably access to 15 very gentle emojis.
No, it's only a matter of time. We're going to push that envelope.
15 today.
People will be receiving poops before they know it.
No.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're kicking off today's stories with a couple of big things that have come out of the Winter Olympics. Now, the pressure for TV producers and event organisers to make each Olympic Games more spectacular than the last, it's got to be enormous. And the Winter Games in Italy have been no exception to the rule. It's a global spectacle with 20 million new judges and referees tuning in daily to cast their critical eyes over every performance. We all become experts in the most obscure sports for at least one fortnight. The margin of error is zero, but technology keeps everything in check. There are cameras everywhere. Drones track mid-air twists and flips from close range. Races are timed to the millisecond. It's every bit exhausting and exhilarating for the spectators, wouldn't you say, mate?
Oh, it's just what I like about it actually is you get the athletes who are going faster, stronger, bigger, bolder, and the technology has to keep up with them.
Yeah.
Swiss watchmaker Amiga has been the official Olympic timekeeper since 1932. But you can imagine in 1932 they'd say, here you go, James, here's an Amiga stopwatch. Yep. Mary's Amiga stopwatch. Right, you ready? Go. And we click the stopwatches and maybe we had two people timing the same person. So that would have been the redundancy and that would have been about the extent of it. Now we're getting down to a few things. One thing is the Formula One we talk about sometimes, how you measure down to a thousandth of a second, which when they're going for a pole position, when they're going for their qualifying lap, you need that sort of separation sometimes.
Exactly.
In the 1,000-metre short track speed skating, there was a heat that was separated by 0.0002 seconds. Now, I reckon that's a tie.
Sorry, 2/10,000ths of a second.
That's it. So surely you'd say, you two, that's equal. But then I thought about it. That was in a heat. So if you've got a certain number of qualifiers going through to the semi-finals, then you can't say, we'll call it a tie between you two. Oh, we haven't got enough places in the semi. What do we do? So they separated by 0.0002 seconds.
Oh, wow.
That seems so. That's higher precision than Formula One. Unbelievable. Even in the women's cross-country sprint, which cross-country you think would be a bit more separated, there was a qualification decided by 0.04 seconds, so 400th of a second.
The luge they usually do to a millisecond, don't they?
Well, the luge they do now with some of the cameras, which they're using as kind of photo finish cameras, but some of the cameras I know are up to 40,000 frames per second, not necessarily the ones that are on the photo finish in the luge, but obviously the luge, they're going very fast and there's not much. I mean, you're pushing a thing down.
Well, this thing, you're essentially
slope.
falling just due to gravity, aren't you? And there's
right.
a little bit of friction, tiny bit of friction from the ice.
That's right. And your accuracy, and I'm probably going to insult every luge team out there.
With our lack of knowledge of luge, but
But the accuracy on the turns obviously helps a little bit, and how fast you sprint at the very beginning. Yeah. But you are talking about the first to the last.
We're talking about how tightly did you squeeze your shoulders on the fifth turn.
That's right. So you need that. So they do have incredibly accurate photo finishes. They've got multiple snapshots just to get the microscopic time differences on there. So that's incredible. But the other thing that I thought was interesting in the figure skating, for example, as an average punter that has no expertise, and then I look at that and go, oh, that was pretty good.
I always thought you were right into figure skating.
Yeah, I know.
You've certainly got the grace and the elegance.
I can understand why you might be a bit confused that way. But around the figure skating rink, they've got 8K cameras, as in the resolution 8K. They've got 14 of these, and they feed all this footage into AI systems so that essentially the viewers can see these real-time 3D models. Did they land that triple axel perfectly? How fast were they spinning? What was the blade angle of the actual skate when it hit the actual ice? I mean, that sort of thing, because as a judge, you're watching it real time and you go, yep, I think they
look pretty good to me.
That's right.
But apparently, and here's the controversy. They actually used to judge them and score them just from their trials. They'd watch them do their warm ups and their trials, and there was a big thing back in the early 90s about judges just getting their scores ready before they did their performance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So,
and it was only if they majorly stuffed up did that score change.
I was going to say, so they've got someone scoring at a 9.8 and they fall over in the actual performance and 9.8.
Based on your reputation. Anyway.
Right. So, and that's difficult, isn't it, as a judge?
I might have made all that up too, folks. It could be one of those memories that I just dreamt.
An implanted memory.
Can we have people email in and tell me if I'm right?
But I'm sure there's a bit of reputation involved in anything you do where it's judging on the performance, not on something where it's a number like
It's not something that you're going to surprise someone with a wild card and take out the gold medal, I don't think.
It would be unusual for someone to watch a performance and go, wow, they were terrible, and then put in a gold medal performance. So, but it's interesting. They're not using that sort of 3D models at the moment in the judging, but maybe they will. Maybe they'll get to the point where they'll say, I want a numerical analysis of the various tricks that they did during performance rather than just, oh, yeah, that looked pretty good. They looked like they were in shape. Everything looked okay. So, and I'm sure there's a bit more judging than that.
So imagine you land with your skate just on dig up a little bit too much ice when you land. Oh, no.
But you're comparing it to everyone else as well.
Shake your head and your finger.
Did everyone kick up a little bit too much ice and who kicked up a little bit less ice than someone else? So a whole range of things. But it is fascinating just to see how far we've come. And what you're really trying to do is get into the lounge room. So you're trying to be as if you're there on the slopes.
Well, we all become armchair experts.
We do. And
I love my curling.
When do we get cameras in the brushes, in the brooms? That's what we want. We want cameras in the brooms. But they have got drones. They've gone a bit cray-cray with drones.
Yeah, drones, why wouldn't you lean heavily into them? Yeah.
30 broadcast drones they've got. And these are literally chasing athletes down slopes. And you look at it sometimes and you go, they're following the athlete. Oh, wait up. There's an obstacle up in front. I wonder how they're going to go. And sure enough, the drone just goes around the obstacle, and it might be some major thing that you're watching. And if the operator's watching just the skier, they may not actually see the obstacle, but they've got 3 operators per drone. So presumably you've got people watching the flying side of it, watching the actual athlete, focusing the camera. So it's a fairly complicated process. And I thought they might have used a bit of follow me technology, but I think at the moment they're still using manual operators, say 3 per drone.
I'm just wondering when it's going to be where the drone's following the snowboarder down there, the snowboarder launches into their jump, and the drone gets in the way and there's a collision. Yep. Oh, imagine being the first guy to make that happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, dear.
Whoops, I looked over there for a second.
Would you just put down your little controller and just walk?
That's right.
Find the exit, find your car in the car park and keep driving.
Yeah, I sneezed maybe. So you've got things like and that is a risk. I mean, you're trying to get immersive in there, but there is a risk of distraction, I suppose, as well as that potential for a crash. So you are following along and the skier just catches something out of the corner of their eye. That could be a potential for distraction
that's a big
as well.
Thing there.
Yeah. But it is. Anyway, it's quite fascinating.
We're all reaping the rewards of all this technology.
Exactly right. And we'll keep improving. And how do you make it better next time? Because no one wants to hear, the coverage of the last one was better. They want to hear that this is the best coverage ever. And you keep thinking, what can they do next? But they come up with other things to do.
They can invent new sports. Like you do your jump, but you've also got to dodge the bullets that the drone's firing at you. While
the plastic bullets, Nerf gun, yeah, that's right. Yeah, maybe they introduce some drones into the actual whole process. Who knows? So it is quite interesting and quite fascinating.
Many of the competitions in the Winter Olympics require a bit of a death wish, I think. Perhaps that's why curling appeals to me so much. That's my kind of danger. But there can't be too many events like the ski jump. I mean, you stand at the top of a building that's got a ramp, you let gravity take hold with near zero friction as you hurtle down an impossible slope, then you launch yourself into the air and fly for what seems like minutes without wings, and then you don't crash at the end. Matt, what sort of tech similar to a parachute or anything smaller than a parachute even is going to help a ski jumper?
Well, there's a couple of things with ski jumping. There's been a bit of controversy recently as well. So, to your point there, just to wrap some numbers around there, it's a 115-metre ramp. So that's a fair ramp to go down, as you say,
ramp,
with
right?
gravity.
And really, it's just a free fall.
It's a free fall, essentially, that's right. Not much friction in the skis.
Slightly guided free fall, yeah.
That's right. And then you're hitting speeds around 100 kilometres an hour, and you're trying to jump maybe almost 150 metres. Now, that 150 metres is kind of down a slope, so you're landing a bit gently if you get it all right.
Yeah, but it's still, you're 150 metres in the air.
That's right. 15 seconds.
And then don't crash.
That's right. 15 seconds, you're hovering in the air. And the interesting thing is always you see the angle that they're leaning forward and they've got the skis. What they're trying to do is trying to make their body as much like a wing, to increasing the surface area as much as possible. Now, I didn't realise this, but there's a huge amount of scrutiny of your suit. There was some controversy a little while ago where after the suit measurement, so when you are measured up to be a ski jumper, you're allowed 4 centimetres additional material on your suit compared to your body size. So these are in the regulations.
In length or
overall, in terms of the width of it, the overall size area? Of that. Well, I get the feeling that it's 4 centimetres. If your chest measured 50 centimetres across, it's maybe too much, maybe 40 centimetres across, then you would have 44 centimetres as the maximum. So it seems like that's the amount of extra material.
So you're not making material to catch wind.
Exactly right. But there's a bit of controversy because they had some people, after they had their suits measured and ratified, and the athlete measured and ratified, this isn't this Olympics, this is a little while ago, they then had some of the officials or some of the team members sewing an extra 4 centimetre patch in the crutch, and that was enough to make a bit of difference as to how far they would fly. So there's some coaches who got banned for a few years on the basis of that. You would think, what? Nothing. 4 centimetres, big
Hardly
deal.
a wingsuit.
Exactly right. But that's the level we're at.
Wow.
What they've done now, though, which this one is okay, not in competition yet, but in training, they've now got some sensors that are in the shoes, in the ski boots of the skier. And then those sensors feed information directly into goggles that the skier's wearing to tell them if their body position is just right. So they've got green and red images or lights inside their goggles. If they lean too far forward, they'll get a red light at the top of the goggle, for example. Lean back, green, that's great. Lean too far back, red at the bottom of the goggle, left or right. So that's the level we're at. Because when you think about it, I remember when we were a kid, we used to race BMX bikes. Yeah. And every time you'd go to a race or somewhere, there'd be some kids say, oh, look, we found a cool jump over there. Let's see who can jump the furthest. And, of course, you'd go flat out of that and you'd jump. And there'd be always some kid who would always jump way further than everyone else. And you'd watch them and they would be perfect when they'd just come to the jump, just lift their bike at just the right time. And you see these ski jumpers who, that's the skill there is the couple of hundred milliseconds when they get to the end of that ski jump, just lift at just the right time. Yeah. You miss it by a bit and you're probably either crashing or not going as far. But then the other skill, which I didn't realise, was how they can get their body angled at such a level that wind is holding them up for as long as possible so that they're falling with grace rather than just falling with gravity.
Goodness me.
So by having the angles different, they can actually get better performance. Now, they've tried this in training and they took some junior teams and they put this technology on them and said, here you go. And they got a measurable difference within several jumps just by being able to communicate back immediately while you're in the air the angle that you're at. And then obviously from that, you learn those. They become part of your muscle memory and then you go and do the jump for real. You haven't got the technology there, but you know how your body must be.
The finesse in this sport is just so amazing. I remember Eddie the Eagle. Was it late 80s or was it early 90s, whatever? And he just seemed like a bit of a caricature and everyone was sort of making fun of this guy. Yep. But what he was doing was still pretty incredible.
It was, wasn't it? That's right.
Because you can't just stumble your way into this and just, I'm going to throw myself down and see what happens.
No, that's right.
And he wasn't in contention for the medals, but he was still flying and he was doing a great job at it too.
That's right. And the thing is that it's pretty daunting to sit there, just go and take Joe Blavich, just sit there, say, at the top of a building and look down there.
You sit on that seat and you look down the ramp and then you look at where you've got to land, and that would be terrifying.
That's right. It's from the bottom looking up. It's always when you look at a tall building, you look up, oh, it doesn't look that tall. When you go up the top and look over the edge, you go,
no,
oh,
that's where the problems start. Yeah.
That's right. So, and so you're right. Even for Eddie, you might be winning a gold medal, but you still are making it to the Olympics.
Yeah.
You know, between Eddie and myself, you know, there's one of us that's been to the Olympics.
He was jumping a long way. He was jumping a long way. Yeah.
So it's the level of technology and the level of feedback. The other problem for the athletes would be the coaches getting all this information as well. So when you land, you go, no, that was terrible, James. You lean back at the 7-second mark. You lean back too far. It's
and your launch was way too early.
I thought I did pretty good, boss.
As a teenager in the 80s, when video games were still emerging from the chrysalis, shall we say, computer chess was big. Well, big with the cool kids that I hung out with, at least. Now, it was one thing to have a computer chess set that was on the screen. It was just the visual display there. That was cool. But if you were a real fan like I was, you had a computer chess board. There's something about the weight of a piece in your fingers as you're moving around a board. You got to get it. It was just a bit of a letdown that I had to move my opponent's pieces to. It was unnatural and, let's face it, a bit humiliating if you were losing. Matt, it's taken 40 years, but computer chess can now do its own dirty work.
It can indeed. So when you used to play on those chessboards, a square would light up to tell you where to move to?
Yes. Well, you'd have the grid and you'd so the square would have the grid. So the LEDs were on the edge.
Yeah, right.
And so
okay. So
you're moving this piece, you've got to pick up this piece and you move it too.
That's right. And you'd look at it and go, oh, that's a good move. I don't want to move it there. I don't want to do what I've been told to do by the computer. So that's, as you say, a bit humiliating when it's kind of,
Well, you've got to move the computer's bits and it's like, no, I'm going downhill. Yeah.
So this is a little bit different. And there are some commercial boards out there available as well. This one was a bit of a homemade system. But basically, it's a system where the chess pieces will move themselves. And we've got some pretty clever technology involved in this, but when you think about it, magnets, I mean, you see magicians do it all the time with a magnet underneath a board and they can move things around there. Yeah. It's just a matter of having that magnet be able to move it in the program way. So a bit of technology in terms of the chess brain and then having a PCB with a magnet underneath it and then chess pieces that are 3D printed with magnets. So this was all done as a do-it-yourself home project. Bit of time involved, but I love the fact you can get all this together and then make it happen. So you then play chess, you move the chess pieces, the sensor picks up where you've moved yours, the computer works out where it wants to move theirs, and then, lo and behold, the chess piece just moves itself.
Freakish magic.
That's right. Now, still a few issues. The first one is if there's another chess piece in the road where you're moving your chess piece to, then it's a bit complicated. It kind of bumps it out of the way. So it can't levitate, it can't move around it. It just goes as the piece there. But I imagine that you could get to the stage where you program it so that it can move it around it.
Just need bigger squares, don't you?
Oh, maybe. I was thinking going to other squares and then coming back into that one. The other thing is that when you get your piece taken, then it kind of just bumps into it. You want it to be more dramatic. You want it to come and have an alarm that pops out and just knocks you over or something more dramatic. But I do like...
Or explodes it.
Maybe that's it. Oh, damn, I've got to buy a new set of pieces. Every game I play, a new set of pieces. So I think the idea here, though, is quite clever in that you want the tactile feel, but you also like the idea of a computer doing the work for you. And I like the fact that we've got this ability to make this sort of stuff ourselves. And I'm not saying every person's going to go and make their own chessboard like this. There's a bit of work involved. But we've got so many tools available to us now with 3D printing.
And what you can't 3D print isn't worth doing.
Exactly right, yeah. So a car, well, you probably could 3D print a car. You just a big 3D printer.
Yep, I've seen it. So those of us with a bit of experience know that good driving requires a bit of a sixth sense. In a busy built-up area in particular, predicting the unpredictable can be the difference between life and death, particularly for our child pedestrians. And now, in a world that includes driverless cars, an angry mob already awaits the culprit for the first driverless car fatality. So, in order to avoid major international headlines, autonomous vehicle companies learning how to see around corners, Matt.
So it was actually in January this year, there was a Waymo vehicle that struck a child in Santa Monica. And obviously press is often bad when that sort of thing happens. The child didn't die, luckily.
Yeah, and there's a subset of people who kind of want to see this happen so they can get wound up about it.
Well, maybe. You might be spot on there. Now, in this case, there was a car driving along at 27 kilometres an hour. A child ran out from behind a parked car, behind a parked SUV. So it would have been near impossible for a human or an autonomous vehicle to see. But because it's an autonomous vehicle, it's not distracted, it's got very quick reactions. When that child came out, it braked very quickly, got down to 10 kilometres an hour and then hit the child. Now, the child got a few scratches and bruises, all pretty scary. But, of course, people want to say, look at those autonomous vehicles, they're running over kids. I absolutely guarantee that if it was a human driver, it could have been
much different.
Oscar Piastri driving, someone with incredible reflexes, and still they're probably going to hit that child at 12 kilometres an hour, 14 kilometres an hour. So they're still going to hit the child because the physics of the car travelling are just not going to be able to stop in time, despite the fact that the autonomous vehicle would have braked much quicker. One of the problems, of course, as you say, that sixth sense, you're driving along somewhere, sometimes you go, oh, built-up area.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw an open door on that house over there and a couple of toys there, maybe some kids around. I'll just
all those
slow
little
down a bit.
subliminal messages that we pick up on once we've got a bit of experience. Yeah.
That's right. So you're looking out for those type of things. An autonomous vehicle doesn't understand those couple of toys on that particular driveway or on that open door might mean a child is out running around free, so it doesn't actually slow down until it sees something. But in this case, the whole concept of holo radar, HOLO radar, is about seeing behind or around obstacles that are there. So this is where you start to see some of the attraction in technology. Now, a lot of the debate in autonomous vehicles has been around cameras or LiDAR. So cameras, so like humans, we've got eyes. We don't have radar bouncing out signals and coming back to us. We see things and then react to them. So some people have argued, well, the best way for an autonomous vehicle is to be like a human and have lots of cameras and see what's happening out there. But of course, you do have LiDAR. We have the ability to bounce off things and get a really clear picture. So others have argued about LiDAR. I argue for both. I say,
why can't you have both?
Yeah, that's right. Why not have cameras and LiDAR and then combine the two? And in this,
one thing LiDAR with light can't do is diffract around corners as well as radio waves.
Correct. And the same with us. With vision, we can't see around corners because we're relying on light waves to hit our eyes.
Bingo, yeah.
Holo radar uses radio waves, and radio waves, because they're much longer wavelength, can sometimes see through things, but also can sometimes bounce off things and see around. And so there's been some researchers at the University of Pennsylvania that have developed this holo radar, and they've essentially been able to do some experiments with just robots, not cars, just robots moving around the campus and constantly sending out this holo radar signal and getting it back and actually being able to see a 3D picture, including what might be behind or around. So take the example of the child running out. While it's bouncing out a signal, it can possibly get through that car. It can possibly get through a wall or obstacles that might be there and see other things that might be there and say, hold on, I can see a child moving along there. A lot of processing power is going into this to actually draw that picture quick enough, but eventually get to that stage where it could see that child behind the parked car before they've actually come out and be seen visible. Now, it might not mean they brake suddenly, but it might mean I can see a child, it looks like they're running out, I'll just start slowing down now, and then sure enough, they come out, I've already slowed down to 15 kilometres an hour, I can stop completely before that child.
Yeah.
So we're getting there with all this extra technology, and we've talked about it before. We're really clever, you and I in particular, but we're really clever as humans that we can actually drive a car, which computer programmers, autonomous vehicle creators are saying, gee, it's harder than we thought. We're trying all these different things. When we will get to the stage that we will all go, wow, why would a human keep driving a car, is when we get to the stage where we get some of this technology that's going to give better capabilities than humans. Quicker reflexes, seeing around corners, better vision, a whole range of things. That's when it'll be better. I mean, holo radar is also good because it works at night time, whereas radar works at night time as well, but LiDAR, again, as you said, relies on light.
Yep.
You rely on some sort of daytime or some sort of light to be able to actually make that work better. Same with cameras. So, yeah, we're getting there slowly but surely. But if you go to a plane and you said, right, we've got a new feature, we're going to fly Sydney to LA and we're having a human in control all the way, no more of that autopilot silly stuff, we're having a good old-fashioned human in control, you'd go, oh, gee, I don't mind autopilot. Seems like it's going to keep it on track, the right height, the right direction the whole time. We've come to accept that we get on a plane and we fly any distance at all, there's going to be a computer in control of that plane. So that's okay, but we're not there with cars yet. So it's something that I think we need to get to that stage.
I think it's only a matter of time, as you say. Yeah.
Well, people are working on the first one that comes out with an autonomous vehicle that everyone goes, that's the one. They will capture the market.
There was a time when the Royal Navy ruled the seven seas. The romantic era of Lord Nelson battling the Spanish Armada from the Mediterranean to the English Channel. St George's ensign commanded respect across the waves for centuries. Well, the golden age of sail is back again for the Royal Navy, but in the 21st century, these sailboats are robotic. Of course they are. And we should add, they are also solar-powered. Matt, there's also markedly fewer cannons for them to stoke and rigging to climb, but the golden age of sail is definitely back.
And sorry, when you mentioned the seven seas, I always found it interesting when I was a kid. I understood Australia. We've got one patch of dirt, and we've got the country. And so you go off that patch of dirt, you're not on the country anymore. And I always found it intriguing that we had the seven seas, and we say, so it's ocean, okay? We're just on the ocean, and then we're in one ocean, and then, oh, look at that, we're just in another ocean, but it's all the same bunch of water.
Bit of water, yeah.
That's right.
Water is flowing from one to another. Right. Yeah, across.
And it makes more sense when you then, as you grow up and you learn a bit more about geography across the world, when you get to Europe and you go, okay, well, there's a country and there's not even a line in the sand. It's just you just moved across there and you're in another country. But as a kid growing up, I just found it hard to understand why we had different names. It's all one ocean. It's all one bunch of water. So why are we putting different names on different parts? And who decided that little line there was the line between that ocean and that ocean? So anyway, I move on.
Yeah,
so,
digress. Yeah,
just slightly so.
But so we've talked about sail and modern sail now, and it's taking on a number of different forms. But
this is the fascinating little one, though, where we are seeing now small autonomous vehicles. So these are 1.2 metre long autonomous boats, autonomous vehicles, 40 kilograms in weight, in mass. And their job is to go out there and do some surveillance. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these things that are created are for wartime or for doing something related to protecting borders. I think they could be used for other things as well. But wartime and war mechanisms obviously develop some technology in different ways. So I don't love talking about war stories because obviously you're talking about eventually.
But war is an accelerator for technology.
It is indeed. So these little boats have basically got a little sail on. They use that sail to move around. They're not just sitting out in the ocean just bobbing around. They use that sail and change the actual sail on it. It's a stiff sail, but it moves around a direction. And then they've got a little solar panel for the communications. The primary objective of these is to end up with a whole armada, a whole fleet, a whole bunch of these that you're using in your wartime. So, for example, you might have a submarine, and if you want that submarine to communicate effectively, because ocean is a pretty good absorber of electromagnetic signals, you need something on the sea surface to be able to communicate with, to be able to get that signal out to the wider world. Yeah. And so often you could pick up where submarines were because there were other warships nearby that communication was going back and forth. If you go and put one little boat, one little 1.2 metre boat, and have it always above your submarine, then the other guys, the bad guys, say, well, we reckon there's a submarine right there. Yeah, that's right. So, but the idea of these is you might launch 100 of these, more than 100 of these, and they're in constant communication with your submarine. They're also looking for other things that might be in the water, like other submarines from the bad guys. So you've got this communication capability, and they can move around. You can decide where they move around with the wind, so they can be launched out there and go for, well, they've already done testing for 6 months of them out in the water, but literally,
years.
I'm kind of going until it breaks down. It's almost like forever because it's got the wind to move and it's got the solar panel to charge up what it needs to do for communication, and away it goes. Now, on the good side, they have been used, or something similar has been used for example, being able to send information from storms. You get a big Category 5 storm, you want to know what it's doing, where it's headed, how strong the winds are, all sorts of information. Then uncrewed vessels like this can go into those storms without risking any lives. So we're going to get more and more uncrewed vessels. We're going to get more and more information from the ocean, from ocean temperatures, from ocean salinity, a whole range of things from more and more of these autonomous vehicles. So it might rely on war reasons to develop these, but as they get developed, they'll be used for more and more things. So don't be surprised one day you're out in a cruise ship, you're cruising along on some wonderful...
And there's this odd little bobby thing that's...
That's right, that's ticking along. They don't go very fast. They go along about 4 kilometres an hour.
How big did you say?
1.2 metres long.
Yeah, all right.
So you want to be fairly close to it to
like
see
a
it. Cause,
big model boat.
Yeah, like a big model boat, because I reckon 1.2 metres out in the ocean would be lost pretty easily on your cruise ship, but you might get closer to one and you go, oh, look at that little thing over there. So maybe they're in away from shipping lanes or something that they stay away from those. But don't be surprised to see something like that with a little sail sticking up above there, and it ticks away and moves out there. So we're understanding autonomous on the ocean, but there's not intersections and cars and pedestrians out in the ocean. So probably a bit easier for them.
Much easier, yeah. We take so much for granted these days. Accessibility is almost a given in the developed world. But if you were suddenly to lose one of your facilities, let's say your hearing, for example, I wonder what shape the world would suddenly take. Now, I wonder how participating in sport would be. The big events, I mean, the whistles from the ref, calls from the players, the roar of the crowd. Matt, as we're about to find out, at the Deaflympics, and there's a Deaflympics, it's all about translating sound into any other sensation.
One of the things I love about this podcast is I learn lots of stuff every week as well.
I knew about the Paralympics, but I didn't realise there was a Deaflympics.
Deaflympics. It's been running for more than a century. I feel guilty now that I
wasn't paying attention.
That's right, that I didn't know about the Deaflympics. A century it's been running for, and I'm not aware of it. So what they've just run recently in Tokyo, and what they've been doing and focused on is transferring some of those some of those sounds into visuals. So you talk about the roar of a crowd, you talk about some of those sounds. Well, we take them for granted. In fact, I find now you go to T20 cricket, it's too noisy there because they're trying to create so much atmosphere. It's like turn the sound down a little bit because we don't need it constantly, but there's a lot of sound. And it could be the sound of the sport, the sound of the crowd, a whole range of things, but we just take that for granted because we can hear. But for people that can't hear, what does that feel like? How does that work? And so fans in particular, how do you get into the atmosphere of it when you can't hear what's going on?
And forgive me, I'm going to go to hell for this, but the boxing event is going to have like a big screen with the Batman boom, crash, splat.
Well, but no, you're right, because it's almost like that. So in table tennis, so not in boxing, but in table tennis, they had giant screens that were displaying animated Japanese onomatopoeic characters. And so you can imagine, you can imagine it would be exactly like that. So they were finding that the rally speed, decisive points, momentum shifts were all shown on a screen in a visual context. So you could have a Batman type, boof, bam, whatever, in the boxing or in other sports as well. They also found that just for people to get around, a lot of the visual cues, when you go to a train station, you'll hear the ding, you'll hear an announcement. And if you travel on that train section a lot, you'll hear certain noises. You go, oh, that means there's a train coming in, or that means this train's about to go. That's fine for us because we can hear.
Take it for granted.
We do. And when you're designing a train station, unless you're acutely aware of people without sight or without hearing being part of your transport mechanism, you probably go, oh, yeah, we'll just put some sounds in, we'll do that, and that'll make sense to everyone, except someone in the room says, hold on, what about people that can't hear? Oh, I didn't think of that. So they've got screens in some of these they were testing where they had sound to text screens. So they weren't necessarily taking the actual words that someone was saying in terms of an announcement and turning it into text, the sound. So just that ding when a door was about to close, they were then translating that ding into doors closing. So it meant that the visual cues, they didn't have to have an announcement that say doors closing. The visual cues that everyone else understood were still there, but then the actual translation of that on some of these transparent screens. So that was pretty cool as well, where they tried to interpret what was there. So Fujitsu had an AI-powered display that basically categorised those announcements and then turned those into text that someone could read. So it'd be a fascinating world. And even if, I was going to say if you put earplugs in and tried it, but I've never found earplugs that cut out the noise completely. That's right. Whereas you can put a mask on to cut your vision out completely, but you can't really simulate the lack of hearing. maybe you could put some headphones on that just give you white noise, so you can't hear any other noise
Well,
coming
there are
in.
noise cancelling headphones these days, but there's always another noise playing in your ear while that happens. So, yeah.
Yeah, but the noise cancelling headphones, I think, rely on a second or two of the noise to then work out the frequency and then cancel it.
Yeah.
So it's not getting every noise that comes in. So, look, I'm sure they've got some way of trialling this when they're working it all out, but it does sound quite interesting. Music events, they found with music events, obviously you go to a music event and you can't hear, you think, won't be much fun for me there with my friends, but they were finding that they had either vests or little orbs that you would hold on to, and as the music changed and as the pulse of the music, the beat of the music, you could actually get the feel of the music.
Wow.
Yeah, and so not so much just the bass going through your chest like we might have at a normal rock concert, but you're actually feeling some of these things. So a whole range of things. Judo, deaf judo, they were watching the judo and you would put on a vest with that, and as you would see little things happen, so a little grapple, there might be a bit of pressure in your chest. When someone would get thrown to the mat, there'd be a bigger feel or a bit of vibration through your chest, so you were feeling what was happening as well, because if you're watching that, you might hear one of the competitors make some noise when they had an unpleasant situation like being thrown to the mat, but you're not hearing that as a spectator, but you're then feeling it while you're sitting in your chair.
It's amazing. So I'm wondering what sort of wiring the contestants have got in order to pass that signal, or is it just someone who's got a control button or a keyboard where they're deciding what sensations?
No, a lot of it is from microphones. So, for example, they would have microphones around the judo, which they probably have anyway for TV broadcasts.
Oh, yeah.
And then they have microphones there that take that noise and translate it. I think some cases they might have had a sensor in the mat, for example, so they could pick up some of those.
Yeah.
But a lot of it was taken from the sounds that are there and then converting that, being clever enough to convert that. Yeah, fascinating.
Now, for the vision impaired, getting ready for the day, any normal day, is, I imagine, largely about routine and just remembering the order, sequence of events, shall we say. So much of my morning business relies on visual cues, and the mirror by my door on my way out, well, that's a reminder that I've just left my glasses behind, or I've forgotten to brush my hair, or I've totally disordered the buttoning of my shirt. There are fewer items more useless to a blind person than a mirror, I'm sure you'd agree. But Matt, AI is about to tidy all that up in 2026.
Do you find some of the things happen often, that your buttons are out of order?
I thought I was ready to walk out the door, but I am so not. Start again.
So you're right, having a mirror for a blind person seems a bit pointless. And a blind person might work out how they look by feeling their own face, but what do they have to compare that against?
Yeah.
We don't realise it, but as we walk around society, we see people all the time, and we're probably comparing what we're looking at, or see if their buttons are done up correctly on their shirt every time we walk around. But for a vision impaired person, then you can't do that. So you might feel your own face. It's a bit uncomfortable when you walk up to someone and you start feeling their face, and wait up, your nose looks a bit bigger than my nose, and you're feeling your own nose and trying to get an idea.
You're
of
happy
that.
with your hair? Is it brushed? As you want it to be brushed.
And then you run your hands through your hair and you've just mucked up your hair. So the idea of this is there are some apps out there, Be My Eyes, Envision AI, Aira, AIRA, Aira Explorer, are textual mirrors. So basically you show your face to your phone and it tells you what your face looks
just
like.
says, nope, not today.
Go back to bed.
Go back to bed.
It also looks at your clothes to see whether you've got your clothes looking reasonable. I remember talking to a friend of mine who said they were colourblind, and whenever they go away to a conference and they used to wear a suit and a tie, they said they had to get their wife to pack the shirt and tie and suit in little groups, if you like, to make sure they didn't put a tie on that didn't match the shirt and that type of thing. I think I need my wife to do that anyway, and I'm not colourblind, but I think in this scenario, how do you look? Well, I don't know. So you take a photo, essentially, or you show your image to this particular app or one of these apps, and it will describe your outfit. It will tell you in a verbal form what you look like, not you're terrible, go back to bed, but what you look like, how your look is. Maybe you need a shave, and obviously you could feel that, but maybe you need a shave. Maybe you need to change
sometimes
clothes.
you're in a bit of a hurry and you don't feel your cheek to see if you need a shave.
Yeah.
And I'm just touching my face right now and all I can feel is beard. So, sometimes you just, it's just that glance in the mirror you realise, I've forgotten to...
Yeah. And so there's all this thing. I think one of the great things about technology is that people with various impaired capabilities might be able to have technology help them out in a whole range of ways. Now, the ultimate solution would be that we eventually get to the stage where we can restore vision or restore hearing for people. We're still some way away from that in lots of examples.
Yeah.
But being able to have technology help out in some ways, it's just there are so many people out there developing technology for so many different areas. It's an incredible technology
And there's
world.
dignity in independence. But
Yeah,
people,
absolutely right.
people want to be independent.
Yeah.
Now, the art you hang on a wall creates the vibe that makes your house a home. Still life, portraits, landscapes, photos, paints or prints. The art on your wall provides the feel that puts your mind where it needs to be when you're at home. And music is the icing on the cake. But a speaker, no matter how sleek, can still disrupt the aesthetic, and sometimes it even creates a bit of clutter that you really don't want or need. So why not just build a speaker into a picture frame, mate?
It sounds too simple, doesn't it? And I can remember the first time.
How come it's taken so long?
Well, the first time we got a decent stereo, like a real stereo, I call it. I remember getting it, and we had these big speakers, I don't know, 1.2 metres tall, this big mother subwoofer in the middle, these speakers mounted on the back walls. I set it all up in my lounge room.
And it becomes a feature.
Well, this is the thing. I sat there and listened to music. I went, wow, that sounds great. I called my wife and look at this. And she went, oh, it looks pretty ugly. I went, no, listen to it. Just sit here.
Was it one of the ones with all the lights and sirens on it?
Well, it wasn't that much, it was just they were so big. And I think that was my wife, the first reaction was big, and the second reaction was, but it doesn't go with the couch. I went, oh, no, you're missing the point. It sounds so good.
I remember going stereo shopping it would have been late 80s, I want to say, and if it didn't have heaps of lights and if it didn't have lots of buttons, then you just didn't want to know about it. But it was so intrusive.
Yeah, that's right. They're so big and intrusive. That's exactly right. Now, we've got things like sound bars that people sit below their TVs now.
Yeah,
and I've resisted the sound bars because I'm thinking that can't put the sound out as good as a big mother subwoofer there because it's just got more volume where air it can move. Like, it can't be as good.
You want to feel it going through your chest.
You want to feel that. That's exactly right. So you go to a rock concert, you don't see some sound bars at the bottom of the stage,
no, they haven't used any sound bars at all, have they?
They've got big mother speakers. So I kind of resist a little bit. But when I see this sort of technology, I go, oh, maybe I need to catch up with the times because this is quite fascinating. This particular model is a Samsung, but there are other companies out there as well. They've got the Samsung Music Frame. Go and have a look at it. It's an 8 by 10 inch picture frame. Sits on the desk, sits on a wall, put it wherever you would like to put a picture frame. But it just also happens to be a 120 watt wireless speaker. And from the reviews I read, it sounded like a pretty good high quality speaker, 6 speaker array, Dolby Atmos. You can put a bunch of them joined together in one room throughout different rooms in your house. So you can fill your house with sound and people would walk in and go, where's that coming from? Where's the sound coming from? Because there would be no visible speaker. In fact, there'd be no speaker at all as far as anyone concerned. It just would be sound coming through everywhere. So I like the idea of that. It sounds pretty impressive that you just get this blended in the background. And I think once upon a time, technology in your home in particular, used to be all about, look at these big speakers, look at this wonderful technology. I just wonder whether now we're slowly moving across to technology just being hidden away.
Well, we know, it's not clever to have these big speakers anymore. It's, you still want the sound and everything.
Yeah.
But it's about hiding it.
Well, and I think that's it. I think technology is getting now to be part of the house rather than make it look like, look at this big technology I've got, speakers or whatever else it might be. TVs, they used to be a feature. A TV cabinet used to be a major piece of furniture to fit your big CRT TV in there now.
Shout out to anyone who's still got a stereo cabinet or a TV cabinet.
That's right.
That's
and so
functional.
now you want a nice, sleek TV mount on the wall. We've done stories about rollable TVs that you can't even see the TV until you want to watch it, and then it unrolls and you watch TV and then it rolls back up again or rolls back down again.
Discrete technology.
Discrete technology. So we are moving to discrete technology. So this is just another one of those examples of that. And again, there are other ones out there, but I can imagine this is one size, one model at the moment from Samsung, but why won't they just start to bring out a range of different ones and you just have picture frames and then you start to combine the changing picture frame. This one you can put whatever picture you want in as a one-off picture frame, but rolling picture frames like we've got with our digital frames now with speakers built in, that's all part of your whole stereo system. It just, it does sound pretty exciting.
So in the 90s, glow sticks really brought out the party in a music crowd. But the development of LEDs, well, dance floors and raves, mosh pits just exploded with high-energy light shows. The party evolved even further with headphones and silent disco effects. Now, if you really want to know what's happening in with the young people, shall we say, and let's face it, I would know, the latest gimmick in getting dance floor blazing is the laser glove. Lasers on your fingers, folks. You heard it right. Matt, get the fat beats pumping and clear a space on the dance floor because I'm about to get a 10-fingered loaded disco blitz going.
I think this is one of those examples of how cool is this? We don't need it.
Do you know what
There's no practical reason for it, but how cool.
Do you know what I thought first? Was how dangerous. Like, you can't like shine lasers in people's eyes and stuff. Well, obviously, we're just at free-for-all now. It's go crazy with the lasers.
So you're on the fun police bandwagon now.
Right.
Don't you go using that laser around here. You could hurt someone. So these are gloves which we've talked about it before. Sometimes technology we talk about would not have been possible not that many years ago. And this is another example of that. They're gloves. There's not 10, I've got to tell you. Sorry, there's only 8. They only give you laser in the fingers.
Nothing on the thumbs.
The thumbs don't qualify. So I've got to go and find another pair of gloves. That's right.
Yeah,
I want someone that's got the thumb. The poor old thumb, it gets left out all the time. So give me a thumb laser as well. But there's 8 lasers. So you put your 2 gloves on. You've got a laser per finger. So you could be pointing lasers all over the place while you're dancing.
So this dance floor is just going to have lasers everywhere.
Absolutely everywhere.
Someone's going to lose an eye.
So if I'm setting up the dance floor, I'm making sure I've got a nice little subtle smoke machine so the lasers actually can be reflecting off the smoke rather than seeing nothing until it hits somewhere on the wall, which sounds a bit boring, but smoke. So you can just imagine a light haze smoke-filled room with all these people. You get a pair of gloves as you walk in the door and you start throwing lasers all around. It would just be an absolute laser light show. Forget about setting up the laser light show, the people become the laser light show.
Exactly.
They make the show themselves. So I thought that was pretty cool. But then I started thinking, I want a pair of these around the home. So I'm sitting there in the kitchen and I say to the kids, just go to the fridge there, and I point over there and then pack the dishwasher over there, and just wherever I'm pointing, there's just a laser point. If I'm really serious.
Say, Dad, did you see where I put that? It's just over there.
And then
you've got to fill your house with smoke too.
Well, that's the other problem, isn't it? But I've got then all 4 fingers off. I'm really serious about it. I point all 4 fingers at the same spot and go, it's just there. Can't you see it? Whereas I might just spread out somewhere in a wavy fashion around there, and a few fingers go there. I even like the idea of the next presentation I do, rather than having a laser pointer on the end of my clicker that I use to move side to slide, 1 laser pointer, that's so yesterday. 8 laser pointers, I can really make a point now. But isn't this just a case of someone said, you could do that?
We can do it, so we should.
Yeah, we should. So it's got some clever little diodes that emit the laser beam. So that's pretty cool to get them small enough. It's got a battery inside it, obviously, to run that. It'll run for about 2 hours, and then you need to charge it up. So that's probably not too bad. I'm pretty worn out after 2 hours of dancing.
Or you go to the next nightclub.
Or you go and grab another pair of gloves. So, I've got another spare set, fully charged, ready to go. So all of that just sounds like a lot of fun, and I can't really think of practical things for it except how much fun is that?
But it'll be interesting to see how it evolves, right? So it starts off with just these lights going everywhere on the dance floor, and then who gets an idea and says, we need to choreograph some stuff and just get people dancing.
Remember when, I think it was Taylor Swift who probably did it first, had the coordinated wristband. You went to a concert.
Oh, yeah.
And you've got a wristband as you went in the door. Okay, whatever. And then they used some pretty clever technology to make the wristbands light up in different ways around the actual stadium. I went to an Ed Sheeran concert recently, and he talked about the fact that, I know some concerts you go to, you get a wristband. Well, I figure everyone's got a mobile phone in their pocket, so I'm just going to get everyone to use their phone. And it was actually quite clever. He had a song that talked about taking a photo. So he said, so when I say this, I want everyone pointing the camera at me and have the flash set up so that it flashes. And I want everyone to do that. And when you looked around the stadium, it was pretty cool that the whole stadium, not just sometimes you'll have people with their phones, they hold the light on their phone up, so you've got lights everywhere. But this was literally 70,000 flashes going at the same time, except for my phone, because I was looking around the stadium.
You were looking at everyone else. Yep.
So I was being very selfish. I was videoing it as it was happening. So that's a cheap version of the Taylor Swift concept. But I'm waiting to see a performer now turn up on stage with their laser gloves.
Yeah.
Surely now that's the next thing for the person on stage, because they're always looking for the next big thing. It's usually a big stage and some big stage show or some big walkway that's built out across the middle, but maybe bring it down to just having some nice, cool laser gloves.
The YMCA is going to look awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I don't know how it goes if you're trying to play the guitar with the laser fingers. That might be a bit trickier. But anyway, I just think it's a cool concept.
Very cool. That's all we got time for you today's show, ladies and gentlemen. The meter's nearly run out and we're all out of silver coins, so we've got about a minute before we've got radio silence. So thanks for another cracking tech talk, Matt.
I know it was the last story, but I am going to go out and buy some of those gloves because I just think they're cool.
You're not going to let go.
I'll just find some way that I can use them.
You're just going to taunt me in our next recording.
There's something over there. Something on your forehead, James. Look over there on the
wall.
wall.
Be like a cat, like not letting this go. And thank you too for tuning in, ladies and gentlemen. Tech Talk with Matthew Dixon has all the very latest bulletins from the world of science and technology to help you to become the most popular person at the water cooler day in and day out. Improve your social capital with a weekly helping of Tech Talk. You just can't go wrong. I'm your host, James Eddy, bidding sunny skies and clear roads until we meet again, which will be in exactly 1 week's time if we have our way. In the meantime, spread the word, get people on board. The world is changing and we need everyone to keep up. Take care and we'll see you when we see you.